Yeah, bombs are super cool because everybody has kind of their own unique twist on it because you see strats posted for them here and there, but everyone kind of has learned it their own way, and so there's just minor differences and just really fun to watch.
Ooh, starting off with a 10 bomb capacity upgrade. That, of course, has no bearing on whether or not it's actually bombs at the start. But
That's
always
true.
makes me hope for those early bombs now.
Definitely, it's really a tease, isn't it?
There's just so many bombs you can hold. Now I want 20 bombs at the start from that.
No, it's too bad it won't let you do that. But we will get a chance to see here what they're actually going to give us here in just a moment.
Is that the fire rod?
It is the fire rod. Alas, no bombs, but the fire rod is also kind of fun. It's kind of a scary opening, actually, because the fire rod, you know, you only have so much magic. A full bar of magic will only get you 8 shots with that fire rod, so you have to be really careful with your fire rod shots, or you could get into a lot of trouble. I don't think that's going to happen to either of these racers, but it's certainly possible.
No, it does make luck a bit more of an element at the start because, of course, there's that bombable wall at the back of Escape with 3 chests behind it, and trying to farm bombs on your limited fire rod shots is not easy. This is where we see that knowledge really paying off for runners. If they know where they can find magic jars, they'll be able to take a few extra shots and have a few more coin flips towards getting those bombs.
Absolutely. There are a couple spots in this escape sequence where you can pick up a little bit more magic for yourself, which could be that 1 or 2 extra shot of the fire rod that you need to find bombs. However, we did just pick up hammer in that chest, so that's kind of a moot point. We can kill as many things as we want now.
Yeah, I mean, the fire rod's still great. It's still going to take out that ball and chain guard in 1 hit, so we see the runners not switching just yet, but man, having that hammer for the rest of Escape and for overworld movement, that's fantastic for them.
Yeah, it's always a great thing to see another big item in Escape. I know you see JCopes4Life just picked up a bomb, and so did Hitaka. I missed that one.
Yeah, so these runners well on their way to doing a very easy escape to start the race. And there's some more bombs for them.
Yeah, this is about one of the nicest starts to Escape you can ask for. We've got 4 bombs already, the fire rod and the hammer. Both of these runners have to be feeling pretty great right now.
Yeah, and of course, the other side to that fire rod start that I really like is now you don't have to hunt down the fire rod. Right, the hammer's always going to show up somewhat early because you need it for Dark World access often. But that fire rod that you need to beat Skullwoods, you need to beat Turtle Rock, there's a lot of places it can hide, and now they don't have to search for it.
That's right, and since, you know, we have both the fire rod and the lamp as our potential light sources, if we're not needing to go to Skullwoods or Turtle Rock for a long time, it really can take a long time to find the fire rod, so it is a very nice item to see as the uncle item.
And runners heading back through the castle with Zelda at this point, in pretty good sync with each other. You know, maybe a second apart, but of course that doesn't matter at this point in the race. We've still got good 90 minutes left for the lead to trade back and forth.
Absolutely. This opening, roughly, 6 minutes, a little over, of Escape is really, for runners who are very experienced, really is kind of on the rails. You do the same thing over and over, even though we get these different items that makes it much more interesting for us as viewers to watch and also as a player to play. This opening is fairly similar from run to run. It's really once we get out of the escape sequence where we start seeing this potential for divergence and where the runners can really show their randomizer knowledge off and really start to try to gain advantage over one another.
Yeah, and we always see that same initial play, which is route through Kakariko, go to the South Shore, partly because that's the play that always makes the most sense. But with that hammer start, I always get excited. Maybe today's the day we're going to get Moon Pearl, hammer, gloves, and mirror right at the start, and we're going to see that legendary check of both Kakariko and Village of Outcasts at the same time. Probably
You
not
know,
today, but I'm still going to have hope at this point.
there's plenty of item locations. It could definitely happen, and a lot of seeds. Maybe today's the day. Early Dark World is always very exciting because it's a little terrifying when you're on very low resources because Dark World enemies deal so much damage. You can see JCopes there, actually, he missed his shot, but he lit up the room, which is a nice thing about the fire rod. After this, they will lose that light cone because they don't have the lamp, but you can use the fire rod to light up several of those dark rooms if either runner is not particularly comfortable with all of them.
Oh, and look at these syncs as they're opening those 3 chests that provide basically no benefit to them.
That's right. And JCopes4Life taking the very, very slightly quicker route in bombing the upper wall, with the downside of using an additional bomb to do that.
Yeah, that spending that last bomb for him actually puts him at an awkward break point. Ideally, you want to have 3 going into the village so that you can do Blind's Hut and the well and the chicken hut before needing to recharge. Does make it a bit riskier for him, but of course there's always the chance that Treeple or Hoarder will give something. Was that a map check?
That was. I saw a red pendant up in Hera, and I saw a red crystal over at Eastern. I think Desert was just a regular crystal, but I didn't quite get there before it disappeared.
I think Desert was a pendant this time.
Oh, okay. So that means we have 6 of our crystals over in Dark World.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like the Treeple's not going to give JCopes any bombs, but maybe this will. Nope, it is hearts all the way down.
And just an arrow upgrade in the Lumberjack Cave. So, barring some very unusual circumstances where the gloves or the Moon Pearl is on the pyramid, this is not an Aga seed for us today.
That's right. When we have that early hammer, you kind of start to think that, yeah, no, this isn't going to be a seed I need to do Aga, especially when you see that Lumberjack ledge. It's still possible, so we'll see what turns up over the course of the next 10 to 15 minutes.
And JCopes there did a thing I really like to see. We'll see if Hitaka can do it as well. Seeing that it's just a bomb capacity upgrade, JCopes ducked around that in the cave because he didn't want to spend the 2 or 3 seconds.
That's right, especially because they picked up that plus 10 earlier in Link's house. There's really no need to be walking around with more than 20 bombs. So wow, and 8 on the tier 2 pull there.
Yeah, JCopes unfortunately skipping that triple. That's a bit unfortunate, and Hitaka, I'm sure, is going to be glad to know about that in case of any bomb difficulties throughout this race.
Absolutely, but at 25 right now, he's going to be sitting comfortable for quite some time on that bomb count. Oh, and there's our Moon Pearl in Blind's basement and the glove, and we have Dark World access. That is all she wrote.
Come on, Mirror. Come on, Mirror. Come on, Mirror.
I don't know. If JCopes is feeling frisky, you might make that Village Outcasts play. Either one of them could, like you were talking about. They can do it.
I mean, your chest density is a lot lower than in Kakariko, and so you definitely want to do those Kakariko chests first. The question is, can you get the mirror so that you can come back and forth between worlds? Or do we see them do this before So Short? These are options on the table as JCopes finds a sword and a bug net in the well.
Yeah, and also of note, there were 2 300 rupee drops, so we're sitting really comfortable for money right now. That is almost all we need for the entire... That is all we need for the entire seed. We can do absolutely everything now.
It really works out nicely when you give the bottle vendor $100 and he just gives you 50 of that back. It stops feeling like he cheated you at that point and more like he's giving you money because you're spending that 100 rupees no matter what.
That's right. We see JCopes there since he missed that tree pull, opting to buy bombs so he can do this check here. That is the very convenient thing, that if you do not find bombs along the way, there is always the ability to buy 10 bombs for 50 rupees in Kakariko.
And look at that place for a bottle in the chicken hut right before you want to spend one, or, sorry, show that one to the sick kid. Fantastic timing at the start of this seed.
That's wonderful, yeah. And if we see either, if we could see the flute here in the back of the tavern, that would be kind of the Kakariko dream.
Ooh, just more bombs.
Oh yeah, and then we got Hitaka's map check, and I can see for sure that, yes, you were correct. That was the blue pendant on Desert, which means our green pendant is somewhere in the Dark World.
Oh, and that was the Cane of Samaria.
Ooh, with 2 pendants already in Light World, that means we absolutely must get the cane this seed.
And at the race game, I think I saw Blue Mail, and JCopes, very confident in his play, decided not to double back for it. Hitaka's going for that Blue Mail, and, Blue Mail, of course, not strictly required, but you can be so much more reckless and not worry about safeties if you're taking half that damage.
Absolutely, and in a spot as early as the race game, I like going back for it. If I was running, I'm probably not nearly as confident in my execution as JCopes is, since he abandoned it. But it really does kind of give you that additional level of safety.
Oh, JCopes, speaking of safeties, finding a powder and the bow in Hype Cave, as well as some other junk stuff. But powder and bow, both in Hype Cave together, that's a fantastic start.
Powder and bow is pretty hype.
If you're comfortable doing dark rooms, well, Pod's a green pendant today, and Skull Woods is the other 5/6 crystal. So Pod and Eastern and Skull Woods all completable at this point in the race, along with, of course, Thieves Town. This is just a lightning fast start these runners have been given, as JCopes is going to head up to check on Stumpy and probably do the digging game.
Yeah, that feels like a pretty good route. I'm getting Master Sword at Stumpy. And when you have that early Dark World access without the mitts, you see one of 2 options: either this southern route starting with Hype Cave that both of our runners have done, or sometimes you'll see runners walk all the way around through the Lost Woods to go in at the top, so you can check Village of Outcasts as well. And I'm not actually sure which one is faster. If you want to check both locations quickly, I think checking Village of Outcasts first is probably faster.
It depends on the runner, and depending on who you ask, I often get different responses. It varies from, I want to go south first in case I find mids, to I want to go north first because I don't expect I'll ever find mids in the south. And mids, of course, bridge that gap and change everything around about your routing options.
Absolutely. It's one of those things that it definitely does come down to what the seed actually gives you. But I think it's kind of a little bit of a personal preference thing, which one you end up doing. And that's fantastic to see the dig game item turning out on the first dig. Unfortunately, it's only a piece of heart.
Yeah, and again, we saw JCopes not interested in safeties, just walked away from that initial piece of heart.
And we see JCopes is over here doing the Eastern play right now. Just picked up Quake in Sahasrala's hut. And since we got that bow already, as long as he's comfortable with the dark rooms, Eastern is completely clearable right now.
I can't recall seeing a time when JCopes has done dark rooms. But I feel like, given the number of safeties he's willingly passed up at this point, if he's not comfortable doing dark rooms, then I don't know what sort of game he's playing. We are definitely going to not see some dark rooms because we'll be in the dark for them.
As a viewer, that is how I like my dark rooms. As a runner, that is not how I like my dark rooms, but, you know.
Alright, so another piece of heart in Eastern Palace. JCopes going to loop around as Hitaka's on that same path. I think, this is intuitively a pretty obvious opening, since you do have the power to get that crystal, and it is a 5/6.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's 5/6. You can full clear the dungeon, and these opening 4 chests are available from the very beginning after we get out of escape. So this could be something that the logic is expecting you to have for the entire siege. So it's something you don't really want to put off too much, and seeing that Pod is a pendant makes it even more attractive to do right now.
And JCopes doing that Stealthos trick where you manipulate where you enter the center box of that room, which tricks the game into thinking that, or into spawning Stealthos in places that they can't exist. One spawns on a pot, one spawns off the screen. And so all you have to do then is throw your other 2 pots directly at them, and you're able to take them out in a matter of seconds rather than chase them all the way around that room.
Yeah, definitely a very useful trick to learn early on. Probably one of the first things that I learned when I was starting to run Randomizer, because you can get through that room much, much faster than you can if you actually spawn all 4 of them. And we were right seeing JCopes going through the first dark room, set of dark rooms at least. We'll see after he clears this if he will go through and do the dark room before Armos as well.
I expect he will, because especially with Fire Rod, that dark room becomes incredibly easy. You can just light a torch in the corner, and suddenly you have vision better than just native vision with the lamp.
Absolutely. I think I mentioned that earlier, that there are several dark rooms, this one here in Pod being one of them, where I think it's only a couple tiles over. If you throw that fire rod straight up, you light up the entire room, and it's infinitely easier than doing completely blind. However, JCopes does not have any magic, so that's
right.
not going to be a strategy he can employ here. He is doing something that I rather like, though, firing an arrow into the Igor that is not moving, so that you know where it is, and as soon as the arrow stuck into it starts moving, you fire the next one and you're good to go.
Yeah, that's such a neat little play. I like doing that as well, especially when I don't have the fire rod, and it feels just a bit like you're beating the game, like you've tricked the game into showing you something it didn't want you to see.
It really does, doesn't it? It's a lot of fun. I like that one a lot.
All right, JCopes getting the quick 1 round on those red Igors. Gonna go into this Armos fight and is setting up the very quick kill here.
Ooh, accidentally killed that one there.
Oh yeah, so
A
that...
couple extra arrows there, but it still worked out relatively cleanly in the end.
I mean, we're talking seconds in a fight that is, slightly off optimal, but still very strong, of course.
Exactly. That was still an incredibly clean and quick kill.
So 19 and a half minutes in, JCopes has 1 crystal, and Hitaka's not far away from getting that as well.
JCopes starting off at the Sanctuary, pulling out the hammer. I think he's going into Village of Outcasts.
I think so. And Hitaka doing the Armos fight from the bottom. Ooh, doing 3 hits on that left Armos. But the alternative to the quick kill is just putting 3 arrows into the red one anyways, and that still works out just fine.
That's true. That was not that much slower than JCopes' kill was. Literally a matter of seconds.
That said, with the speed these runners are taking things, matters of seconds are going to matter a fair amount between the two of them, as JCopes does seem to have a bit of a lead right now headed down into Outcasts.
That is correct, and that lead is really kind of because of the fact he skipped that blue mail earlier.
Yeah, that's part of that time difference we see. Hitaka's going south. He's going to be the first runner to check on the dam in the South Shore area, which feels odd at 21 minutes, but hey, you play the seed that gets dealt to you.
It's true. When you get that early Dark World access, sometimes you want to see maybe something big is hiding behind that. They can do everything that they just did very comfortably. Oh, and he picks up the mirror in the dam.
Oh, I mean, that's great to find, but I'm sure he wished he had found that a couple minutes ago.
I really bet he did. However, he didn't actually run into a moment where he would have used it in the path he took, but he might have taken a different path had he had that mirror.
The first nice thing that comes to mind about the mirror is when Hitaka goes to do Outcast stuff, he's going to be able to check on the magic bat with that hammer and powder without having to walk all the way south in the light world. So that's a bit of a time save there. But just in terms of general overworld routing, everything feels nicer when you're running around with the mirror.
It really does. There are a lot of locations that you can hit both the light world and the dark world location very comfortably if you have that mirror. And it could be a long trek to get both of them, particularly if perhaps he finds myths down here. That makes all of the blacksmith turn in much, much cleaner. Ooh, and finding the flute and
red mail.
That is a pretty hype mini Moldorm cave.
All right, so Hitaka's check here of the South Shore has really paid off for him, given him 2 incredibly important items, and also Death Mountain access right there.
That's right. With having had the gloves there, the Death Mountain was open with a sequence break through that dark room. However, now with the flute, Death Mountain is fully, at least the first couple locations, is completely in logic, including Tower of Hera will be full clearable now.
Tower of Hera is full clearable. That hammer gets you onto the east side of the mountain. That might be Hitaka's play before he even heads into Outcasts.
I would not be surprised by that play at all.
On the other hand, maybe you wait and you go into Outcasts area, clear out as much of that as you can, and hope that you find the Titan's Mitt and the hookshot so you can do even more of Death Mountain at once.
That's right. That would allow you to do absolutely everything in Death Mountain aside from Turtle Rock and Spike Cave, which is really nice to do on your first trip up there.
So tons of options on the table for these runners. And, oh, right, Hera's a pendant, so that does make it slightly less attractive. Looks like JCopes, though, is headed for Mothula.
Yeah, that's right. And I like this. I like at least the Skullwoods dip. With Fire Rod, JCopes can full clear Skullwoods. But I do like the Skullwoods dip because Skullwoods in version 28 tended to have a lot of value sometimes. And here we only see a green potion there. I don't think we saw the second item yet, But it is a crystal, and we need to clear it, so it's perfectly possible now, so why not?
Yeah, it is going to be a challenging Moth fight, though. Moth is not easy at the best of times if you don't have Tempered Sword. JCopes right now is running on 5 hearts, and we see him walking around the room doing the long way just to beef up his hearts a bit, because all it takes is Mothula sitting at the top for too long. Those spikes start moving. You have to keep dodging them, and suddenly you can be down to just 1 or 2 hearts.
That's right. And those spikes, no matter what you have, are going to deal a full heart of damage. And we notice, this might be somewhere that we notice this difference in JCopes skipping that blue mail. Given the way he's played so far, I don't think he's going to have any difficulty really with this fight. But green mail Mothula can be very painful.
Yeah, those beams we just saw there do 2 hearts of damage at a time. JCopes going for the spin strats when he can, because they do count as a full tempered hit, which you only need 4 for this boss. Running out of magic and switching over to the hammer, because again, that does tempered damage, but he's got to be super careful here. We see him pause buffering to make sure that he can dodge those.
The bee.
Oh, that bee is carrying this fight for him. He does it with the help of a buzzing friend.
Fantastic. The bee strat's pulling through for JCopes.
Oh, that was a frightening fight, and I do think that bee actually made the difference there as it buzzes around him. Less than half an hour in, and he's at 2 crystals already.
Yeah, this is fantastic so far. 2 crystals at 30 minutes really feels, 27 rather, really feels great. Sometimes I've seen seeds, you don't see the first crystal until 40 or later.
Alright, so Hitaka's going to do that trek as well. Going to take on Mini Moldorm. Is going to be doing this with Rent Bale, so everything's going to be a bit easier. And this is not Mini Moldorm he's taking on. This is Mothula he's taking on. Who would say Mini Moldorm there?
I don't know. Who would do that? You notice here that slight advantage that Hitaka had. He picked up that mirror earlier, so when he opens up that chest, he's just able to quick pop that mirror and not have to reverse his way through that whole winding path that JCopes did.
And JCopes not taking the time to check Bumper Ledge right now. I know that's becoming popular new play with a lot of runners to get that information early, but he's just going to head straight into the village. And why not? Because there's, of course, 3 chests here and all 4 items in Thieves Town along with that crystal. These runners are wasting no time in just clearing out crystals.
I certainly can't blame them. A good number of runners kind of live by the adage that when you can clear a crystal dungeon, do it. And both of our runners here are seem to be adhering to that right now.
Yeah, there's always debate about whether or not you do that with Ice Palace and Swamp Palace. But certainly Skullwoods and Thieves Town, there's no question. If you can clear those, you just go ahead and do it.
Skullwoods is really easy to, once you find that, when you have the fire rod, and generally it's just very easy to run straight to the back and systematically go backwards through the dungeon until you find items to waste as little time as possible. And Thieves Town is pretty much exactly the same whether you're in go mode or not, so there's no reason not to do it. But Swamp and Ice are a totally different story.
Maybe someday we'll see the dream go mode Thieves Town, where you only open that first chest and you get the big key and you blitz the rest. But we're going to be waiting a long time for that particular distribution.
I live for the day that I see that. So far, JCopes not finding too much in these first 4 chests of Thieves Town. One item you must absolutely find in these first 4 chests is, of course, the big key to get into the back half of Thieves Town. which he has picked up already. I think the first one was the compass, so we still have 4 items available.
Ooh, and a shovel showing up in the front half of that. That's one of those things. Hitaka's going to get a bit of a boost from having that mirror when it comes across the shovel, being able to route that in at the same time as the Circle of Bushes cave.
That's right, that is a very nice thing to have. Like we were saying earlier, the mirror is fantastic at times for routing things, because you can hit these simultaneous light world, dark world checks.
So Hitaka looks to be following on JCopes' footsteps here, clearing out the village, and then headed into Thieves Town. At this point, I start to wonder, where's next? You know, if these are the obvious plays, what's the choice for these runners when they have the option to diverge from each other?
It's going to depend, I think, if we find anything here in Thieves Town. We still haven't seen that Death Mountain play, which Hitaka could very comfortably go do after this, having that flute already. JCopes is going to have to backtrack through some of these locations that were skipped earlier in order to make that within logic. But I think that's probably the next place we go, for Hitaka at least. I'm not sure where JCopes is going to decide to go. Perhaps the same with the sequence break, or maybe Hitaka will also pick, or JCopes will also pick up their flute.
Ooh, JCopes taking a nasty hit from those grasshoppers. Those, of course, do 2 full hearts of damage, which is, you know, more than you want them to do. Fortunately, he got that floor open before he took that hit, but that's still a big backtrack he's forced to do here. And Hitaka's gaining a ton of time back based on that.
Yeah, with how close these 2 runners have been so far, that is really a big time loss, even though it only takes about, it's going to take maybe about a minute, I think, to get back to where JCopes was. Like you said, JCopes doesn't have to go back downstairs now since he got that chest and bombed the floor, but that's still a large time loss, taking that death there.
I mean, one of those is going to be fine, but if a couple more of those start happening, and it's due to the mail difference, then we could see Hitaka's deliberate play to pick up that blue mail and his early routing of Mini Moldorm Cave really making a difference for him.
Absolutely.
Hitaka powdering that anti-fairy, but not able to put it into a bottle here. That's fine, there will be plenty more opportunities for that.
That's right. We can see where JCopes is right now. That left skull that he left unturned does have one of those swirls that will turn you into a bunny under it, that if Hitaka does want to fill one of those bottles with a fairy, can toss the powder on that and get his bottle of fairy very quickly.
That's absolutely right. And fun fact, you can actually just powder the pot and you'll turn the bunny beam into a fairy without having to lift up the pot in the first place.
That's right, and that's a very nice thing to know. Not necessarily something intuitive if you have never seen it happen before.
All right, so JCopes has made his way through the basement, picked up that maiden, and is going to head into this blind fight, which, of course, if you know what you're doing, you can basically bait blind into doing a specific set of moves, getting 3 immediate hits on the top, heading to the right, and getting 3 more hits here. And then it's just 3 more hits for the final phase, and the boss you thought was the hardest as a kid becomes close to trivial.
That's right, and JCopes doing a fantastic job of that, taking one tiny little hit there, but otherwise very, very clean blind fight. Blind was, as a kid, my least favorite boss fight in this game, and nowadays is, like you said, close to trivial. Hitaka is picking up, that's the second fairy Hitaka has picked up, by the way. Has plenty of safeties now. Probably feeling pretty good.
And I think JCopes is finally going to give us that South Shore check. So we're going to see him pick up that mirror, pick up that flute, and then maybe head to Death Mountain.
I think that is probably exactly what JCopes is going to do. As soon as they see those items, it's going to scream Death Mountain for them. And that'll be exactly where they go after a quick trip back to Kakariko to Loose the Goose.
Yeah, unfortunately, aside from that mystery shovel, we didn't really see anything useful come out of Thieves Town. And for all we know, that shovel's just a red herring.
That's true. On the plus side, Thieves was at least one of our crystals, so we do need to clear it eventually. So there's no real loss in doing it right now, except that it doesn't point us to where we're supposed to be going next. So I think we see the immediate mirror and flute to Death Mountain from Hitaka here.
And it looks like that. I think he was pausing to consider for a second where he wanted to go. And it is to Death Mountain as JCopes picks up that flute.
And we see Hitaka going through here to pick up the old man item. This is one of the, when you have a sword to track your progress, this is really one of the easier dark rooms in the game, I think. Because you can just watch this sparkle go through, and if you've seen the map a couple times, it's pretty easy to move your way through. So I think most runners tend to do this, lamp or no, the first time they go up to Death Mountain with the flute.
And what does Old Man have today? Just a bomb upgrade.
Hoping for some kind of progression, but at the same time, when you see progression, that makes you start wondering, where is the lamp? And oh, cool, JCopes here is gonna, before going up to Death Mountain, is gonna go over and do that magic bat check.
Ooh.
Looks like Hitaka is finding out that Spectacle Rock is not really having a whole lot today. It's very interesting seeing the difference between these two runners, because Hitaka is playing a very safe game with his pickups in. JCopes is being a bit riskier, skipping over that blue mail and
even just
in general.
skipping that South Shore play right at the start felt a bit risky, just in the sense that I don't think there's ever a seed where you get to skip that entirely. So why, or most runners would say, why put that off until later when you're going to go there no matter what? It doesn't seem to have hurt him too much here, but it definitely speaks to a different style of play. Like you said, he's playing a bit wilder with his routing, and it could work out for him by the end of this.
Absolutely. I like it. It's kind of refreshing to see this kind of riskier, gutsier play. And it also very interesting that it's led both of our runners in about the same place.
Right there. See, there's a heart container on top of Spectacle Rock, and JCopes just says, I don't want that. I don't need that. It's a very risky play, but if he can keep up that consistency, he is going to save time. And from my understanding, if you have fewer heart containers, you can avoid a ton of lag in this game.
That's right. It does. I believe it's a very actually minimal amount of lag in the end, but every single thing that pops up on that screen is a tiny bit more lag. So the less health you have, you save frames here and there. So who knows? Maybe it could make up the difference in the end. Ooh, was that the ice rod on the floating island?
That was the ice rod on the floating island, but also look at where JCopes is going. He's just decided, no, I don't want anything to do with Tower of Hera. And that seems to have been correct. I don't think Hitaka found any value there.
I do not believe so, no.
Although, we may still have an item in that basement chest.
That is true, and that basement chest is accessible right now with the fire rod.
You know what? Hitaka's walking away from it. I think he's confident with his items. He got his 2 and he's out of there.
Yeah, I can respect that play. That is, there are so many other things up here on Death Mountain that could hold progression, that maybe holding off, taking the additional 20 seconds to walk back to Hera to check the basement later, and of course, you know, the time it takes to actually check the basement, but putting that off until later to see if there's something else up here is maybe the safer play.
All right, so JCopes now kind of ahead in terms at least of their sweep through Death Mountain, is going to get to that 5 chest room in Paradox Cave. It's got a lamp.
Ooh.
Some rupees, some arrows, a heart piece, and some rupees. But yeah, ooh, with that lamp.
The lamp is whether you're comfortable with dark rooms or not, the lamp is very nice to see because that puts the dark rooms within logic.
Exactly. And obviously we saw these runners were completely okay with doing Eastern earlier. Now I think that lamp is pointing them into Palace of Darkness. Even though it's a pendant dungeon, hey, it's the green pendant and there's 5 items in there.
That's a lot of items in one location. And
but JCopes doesn't like that.
I think he's going to go back and check that shovel spot, maybe. No?
That's a definite possibility here. Circle of Bushes Cave and the shovel spot could both be done from this portal.
That's what it is. He's going to go take the portal so he can do both of those locations, I think.
Maybe? Oh!
Checking. Oh! We had a misread on the other 5-6 crystal.
I see. Well then, JCopes, go ahead with that big bomb. And do check on the pyramid, both outside and inside. Less than an hour into this. This is bananas.
This is fantastic. I love it when you can get that early pyramid fairy, because when you have access to that early, it really feels like this might be progression. Whereas when you see it late, it feels like, oh, maybe this is like silvers or something, like, you know, vanilla silvers. But early on, when you can get in there, it feels like it might be something big. So I like this a lot.
I think that was 300 rupees on the pyramid. JCopes going to pass up at this point because, hey, they've got tons of money. Half magic. JCopes going to throw a bottle in to get a random prize.
is a fun thing that I think not everybody knows about the randomizer, is that if you toss an empty bottle in, it is a random prize from both the Pyramid Fairy and the Waterfall of Wishing Fairy. They have 2 different prizes. Today, the Pyramid Fairy gives us free red potions.
Yeah, and half magic coming out of there, based on JCopes' playstyle so far, I'm inclined to say he doesn't need it, but there's certainly nothing wrong with it, and you can, again, take that fire rod and be a bit more liberal with where you throw that around.
Absolutely. A lot of runners don't need half magic, but I don't think anyone would say no to half magic. You see, both of our runners are going to make the pod play now. Hitaka already in their JCopes heading that way.
And Hitaka not even finding a small key in that first chest, so this was a bow-locked Palace of Darkness.
That is correct. Conveniently, we picked up the bow quite early. So that is not a problem for anybody.
Now this may give Hitaka the chance to do some really fun routing in pod, and we'll see if JCopes can do it as well.
Pod is always a joy to route every seed, because it depends on so many things what the optimal route through it is. Whether you have, there are the boots. Something we have been looking for, because now we can get that cane.
This is
required.
This is the best route that you can hit in pod, because the front half of the dungeon has to have 4 keys at a minimum. Hitaka maybe isn't aware of this. This chest he's going to drop down to, the chest that has the vanilla big key, those are guaranteed to be keys. So with that knowledge, you can actually skip both those chests at this point.
That's right. If he knows the hammer jump, which I assume he probably does, both of these keys, you only need 4 keys to get through pod if you can do the hammer jump. And he's going to find out both of these are keys and maybe be a little disappointed in this check.
You can actually get away with a few less than that if you know your key logic, because there's a couple keys that are going to be locking other keys potentially.
Correct.
Like that vanilla big key chest we saw there, which does allow you, if you're on the ball, to start skipping chests. We'll see if JCopes realizes that all 3 other chests in the front half are small keys and decides, I'm just going to go straight to the back here and use my keys there.
And he is switching to the bow to open that up, so I think he might be. Nope, looks like he is going to check these anyway.
So similarly, because there are at least 4 keys in the front half of the dungeon, there's either 0 or 1 or 2 in the back half. In this case, we know there's 2. There also can never be a small key inside the dark maze, otherwise you could lock a bit too much in there. There's a big key and the hook shot in the basement.
That is a very nice find. The hook shot is one of those items that is just a really nice comfort item alongside the boots, just for moving around and also just kind of general playing of the game, I think.
Yeah, so if you open the 2 chests in the basement and the one in the turtle room, and you only find 1 small key, you can actually know ahead of time that harmless Hellway chest is also a small key. Just, some things that can save a couple seconds in your routing.
That's right, because anyone who is a little bit, even just a little bit aware of how the logic works, the logic assumes that you will make the worst possible decisions so that you can't soft lock the game. So there are multiple times where you will have a key behind a key door, because if you used that, you would make the seed incompletable. And that's exactly why those 2 chests we saw with keys behind key doors 4 keys.
That's right. So here's the thing. Hookshot doesn't actually do anything at the moment. Those boots are great. They'll give you Cane of Samaria. But Hookshot's not going to get them into anywhere new right now.
That's right. Until we get the flippers, that would give us both Swamp Palace and Ice Palace completely within logic, no matter where things are placed within there. A lot of times, Hookshot might be the thing that opens up East Death Mountain for us, but since we had Hammer and Mirror early, that's out of the question as well. So Hookshot is needed in 100% of seeds, so it's good to have, but it doesn't give us anything right at the moment.
But look at this. Hitaka left out of left pod already. Decided not to go to Helmasaur for that final item. JCopes is going there, and Helmasaur is going to have an item of some sort. Plus the green pendant, potentially giving 2 items that Hitaka is going to be missing out on for the time being.
That's right. This could be, depending on what those 2 items are, this could be really huge for JCopes, or it could be really huge for Hitaka for saying, no, I don't want those.
Yeah, and with the rate we've seen these 2 runners racing through the seed at this point, this couple minute sync could make a big difference in the time these 2 runners take.
Absolutely. We have been seeing remarkably similar decision-making between both of them. Ultimately, some slight divergence here and there, but ultimately making the same decisions. So this could be huge.
Now, Hitaka's taking those boots, and before picking up the cane, has headed to the north part of Dark World. Already checked Bonk Rocks and didn't get anything, but is going to check on this graveyard ledge, and I have to assume go straight into King's Tomb afterwards.
I like this decision a lot because these 3 locations are kind of awkward spots to be picking up Tempered for it. That's very comfortable. Always nice to see that. Makes life so much easier if those silver arrows don't show up for the final boss fight with Ganon.
Alright, so JCopes made his way through Palace of Darkness to that Moldorm fight. Gonna need 17 hits with the hammer on the mask. And then total of 8 hits with the Master Sword. There's the Titan's Mitts. Hitaka seems pretty pleased with those.
That's big.
In King's Tomb. That's absolutely huge.
See, Hitaka heading over to the Mire area while JCopes finishes off Helmasaur. We'll see if Helmasaur gives us anything important today.
Well, a heart container, but also that green pendant and its Quake medallion required for Misery Mire. So that is fully clearable by the runners at this point. Unfortunately, before coming to this area, Hitaka did not go back to the library for that red cane.
That is kind of an unfortunate routing decision. Perhaps it won't be too big of a deal in the end, but it could have been slightly more efficient to go back and get that cane first.
I don't think it'll cause any problems as long as he remembers to go pick it up before heading into Misery Mire. And there's the book on the ledge for Desert telling us once and for all that, yeah, you had to use Flute and Mitts and Mirror to get there.
Right, and we saw in the interim, JCopes picked up a +5 bomb capacity upgrade from Sahasrahla, showing us that Hitaka was correct in saying see you later to Pod when he did.
Alright, Hitaka's fluted back to the village. I think at this point he's going to be cashing in or picking up that Samaria from the library.
That's right. I think this is a very good choice right now. Maybe possibly going straight back to Mire now. Since we haven't seen those flippers yet, Swamp Palace is completely untouchable. Ice Palace is technically clearable with a fake flippers. but Meyer is probably a pretty good play because those flips might be in here.
Yeah, the one thing that I see a lot of runners do at this point is rather than go straight to clearing more dungeons, they'll take that Titan's Myth and they'll go up Dark Death Mountain. And the reason being, you look at this seed, you see Turtle Rock's a crystal, you know you're going to have to complete it. You want to find out which medallion you're going to need, or if you have to keep searching. Because right now, if Hitaka finds Flippers and finds the Ice Rod, he still won't know if he's in go mode.
That's true, because we don't know what we can use to get into Turtle Rock yet. If it's Quake, wonderful, we've got that already. But if it's Bombos or Ether, we're going to have to hunt around for those, and those can be so many different places.
JCopes going straight to the library at this point, also picking up that Cane of Samaria, and he's ready his flute. Let's see where he goes with this. Oh, and chat reminding us, of course, that the Ice Rod's on that floating island behind Hookshot Cave, so the runners know where they can get that, and they can get it on their way to Turtle Rock.
That's right. I do remember. You mentioned Ice Rod here for Hitaka, and I was like, didn't we see that already? And yes, we did. So that is something. The great thing about seeing Ice Rod up there is that means they can go get that on their way to Turtle Rock if they really want to. If they see everything else they need, it's just conveniently placed there right outside the one place they actually need it.
Right, JCopes opting not to go to Misery Mire at this point. I think he's going to give us that North Dark World. Oh, of course, he can't go to Mire. He doesn't have his mitts yet from here.
That's right, and he's going to go and grab those right now and be very happy to see them. And then I suspect he's going to make the exact same choice and head straight over to Mire.
Ooh, there's the cape in Misery Mire for Hitaka. Opening up Spike Cave, putting the laser bridge of Turtle Rock technically into the logic, though, again, not something he'd actually require in practice. And one of the two items for Misery Mire, let's see where that last one is. It's 3 bombs for him.
All right, so I don't think he's picked up the big key yet, so he still needs that to be able to actually clear Misery Mire, but once he gets that, I think he's going to be taking a beeline to Vitreous to get rid of this place.
And there, of course, is that Tempered Sword for JCopes, bringing the runners pretty close to each other on gear. Oh, as the vanilla big key chest just holds a map for Hitaka, he's going to have to go back to checking on the right side. That's always a pain when you light those torches, wait through the cutscene, and don't even get a key for your effort.
It really is. It's a difficult decision to make here with what Hitaka had left to open for these Mire chests, because it was 2 locations that took a little while to get to, and if one didn't deliver, it took a while to get to the next one. So Hitaka's going to open this chest here and get the big key.
I like this method of getting to that chest. Looping around from the top, slightly cleaner, and then you can just come straight north from here into the basement.
Yeah, that's really nice. I actually had never thought of that routing that I just saw there, so that's very nice.
And JCopes is also going to head into Misery Mire. We'll see if he manages to cut out that left side cutscene. As Hitaka's running through that basement, and with the aid of the lamp, this is not a problem at all.
This is my personal least favorite dark room, but with the lamp, it's a breeze. And yeah, we'll see if perhaps if JCopes does manage to, if JCopes gambles on that chest that actually held the big key, having the big key rather than the vanilla big key chest, could be a time save here that could get him a little bit closer to our runners being in sync.
All right, so just passing the 1 hour mark as Hitaka's headed over to Vitreous for that 4th crystal. He's going to take out that cape and just stand in there, it looks like, and slash away. No, he's going to go first for spin strats.
I like this. It's very, very safe to do this. Spin strats are very fun because if you get yourself hit here on that green goo outside of the main body, it only takes a very small amount of damage compared to what you actually take when you get hit by one of the eyes or Vitreous himself.
And just 8 arrows to take down that big eye, dropping a small key for the rest of the dungeon, but more importantly, that 4th crystal for Hitaka.
Oh, notice here we see JCopes leaving that side of Meyer, heading up here to check these items real quick. I wonder if he'll run down to check the key that we found the chest that we found the big key in, or if he will, well, coming back this way, I wager he's going to check both of these chests over here.
This is the same path we saw Hitaka take through the dungeon, I think, at least up until this point. We'll have to see if he ends up going the faster way to the right. He, unfortunately, is not going to make up any time in this dungeon compared to his opponent. He's got a cutscene incoming.
That's right. He's going to be very disappointed to see that map behind these chests. But at the very least for him, his opponent did not skip this either.
And over on Hitaka's side, he has made his way over to East Death Mountain. He's going to do Super Bunny Cave, Hookshot Cave, probably pick up that Ice Road right now. And then it's going to be that moment of truth. Does Quake open up Turtle Rock tonight?
Yeah, that is correct. And I wonder if Quake opens up Turtle Rock, does Hitaka go do it right now?
I don't think there's any question you take on Turtle Rock in this case. You've got plenty of gear for it. It's a crystal dungeon, so you're doing it anyways. Go mode saves a negligible amount of time. And more importantly, I think there's 6 or 5 items plus the Mimic Cave in there. And flippers will be all you need for go mode.
That is correct. Yep, 5 items plus Mimic Cave. And if we're still hunting for flippers, I think you are absolutely right. If Turtle Rock is Quake, absolutely go clear Turtle Rock right now.
Well,
or we can find the flippers right there.
I mean, I think you still check if you can do Turtle Rock right now and knock it out while you're there. There's Bombos, increasing the odds that we're in go mode. This seed might be about to fall into place very nicely for Hitaka.
It is looking pretty good. I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing this Turtle Rock check in about a minute here, or less.
And it's Ether.
Oh no, that's the last thing you wanted to see there.
You know, especially when Flippers just showed up and unlocked a full clear of 2 dungeons. Ether is the last thing you want to see. Hitaka's going to check on Ice Rod Cave. And then maybe it looked like he was also thinking of Ice Palace there.
I was thinking it was going to be straight Ice Palace, but I forgot Hitaka hadn't done Ice Rock Cave yet. So it's a very interesting decision to make at this point. This is a very difficult decision to make, I think, between Ice. When you find flippers late, do you go to Ice Palace that just unlocked, or do you go to Swamp Palace that just unlocked?
Ice Palace, if you're Hitaka, I think.
Absolutely. And we saw some pretty cool Cape dash strats over there from JCopes on the Vitreous fight. That was very nice, wiping out the small eyes very quickly with that.
I absolutely love that approach. You have to have the half magic or the butter sword. Single magic and tempered is not going to do it, but boy is it fun to just take down that boss who's messed with you so many times.
That's right, yeah. It looks so good, and it just feels great to do that, just to shred it to pieces like that. JCopes here is going to run over and check that checkerboard cave, hopefully forgetting he doesn't have the flippers yet.
I do not envy Hitaka's position right now. He's seen that he's made this gamble consciously about doing ice over swamp, and the whole way through it, he's going to be counting items and he's going to be panicking. He's going to be wondering, oh no, did my opponent go to swamp at the same time? Are they going to find it there? Is that going to cost me a lot of time? Fortunately, JCopes still hasn't made it up there, and so Hitaka's going to have a bit of an edge left.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. Ice Palace versus Swamp Palace, if you look strictly at the numbers, Ice Palace has got only 3 items. Swamp Palace has 6, which, looking strictly at the numbers, makes Swamp the more attractive play. But the logic is not always that forgiving.
No, it's not, and, you know, some of those chests in Swamp Palace are nice and close to each other and quick to get, and then there's those 2 on the left side, and a lot of runners hate those so much that they'll avoid Swamp Palace just on the grounds that they don't want to either have to do those chests or decide to skip those chests and get burned for it.
That's right, and JCopes finding out that, unfortunately, Turtle Rock is Ether today, so cannot go in there yet, but is about to pick up Super Bunny Cave and then Hookshot Cave for the flippers. And then we'll see which choice JCopes makes between Swamp and Ice.
You know, for Hitaka, the decision was pretty clear. As in, there was a clear decision of Swamp or Ice. This might be where JCopes' skips that he did earlier start to hurt him. You know, he stepped into Tower of Hera and then noped out immediately. He's maybe left a couple of other locations alive in this run that might be eating away at his mind and might cause him to start go checking there.
That's true. It depends on how much JCopes wants to commit to the skips that were made earlier in the seed.
That's a very good point. It's entirely possible JCopes says, you know, I didn't check Hera. That was a conscious choice. I'm okay with my place in the run if it's in Hera because I'm not, at this point, going back there. If it was there, I'm already in trouble.
Exactly. And so far, Swamp isn't paying out too much for Hitaka, but we might see something coming up. I believe we have at least one more item left. Was following what JCopes was doing a little bit more.
Oh, and JCopes is making the play onto Swamp Palace.
Depending on if Hitaka finds anything here in Ice, this could be really big for JCopes.
It could. On the other hand, you know, Hitaka had a lead or got up to Turtle Rock faster, has cleared more of this dungeon already. and is now almost to Cold Stare, just the iced tea room left to check. So, yes, he'll be spending more time, but he may still have a lead just based on some extra time going into this dungeon.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Could just be a little bit of catch up that JCopes could feel, because right now Hitaka is a little bit of an advantage just getting into this earlier.
Ooh, just an arrow upgrade in that chest in the iced tea room, though. So Swamp starting to look more attractive.
That's right, and the plus side is that for Hitaka, that he's going to have to clear Ice Palace no matter what anyway. It's not like this was a pendant dungeon that gambled on maybe having an item. This is absolutely something that needs to be cleared, so it's not like this is a complete loss having no items in here.
No, although you do dream of the day when you can go mode both of these dungeons that the runners are doing.
Oh, without a doubt. Those are the best feeling dungeons to go mode, because you get to skip so many things go moding these two dungeons. As an aside, for anyone who is unaware of what we mean by go mode is when we have all the items we need to complete the game. And so that means we're not looking for anything anymore, which means even though we know there are still items in these dungeons, we are able to safely skip them because we know they cannot possibly have something we need to complete the scene.
Oh, on Hitaka's side, those cold stare puffs got out of the corner. Takes him a bit longer to get them down, but that red mail is excellent insurance. And there's just that final small key, which confirms that yes, you're supposed to have the Cane of Samaria to get this far.
Absolutely. Hitaka probably feeling maybe a little disappointed that Ice wasn't the correct play to find what he's looking for, but I suspect we'll be mirroring it heading straight over to Swamp to do what we're seeing JCopes doing right now.
Oh, that's a map in the south room. I think in its vanilla location, but that's so frustrating to find because now left side's in play, and that's not something you want to be dealing with when you already made the gamble of Swamp versus Ice.
Absolutely. We see JCopes has gone back here without doing left side, which left side is time consuming, only contains 2 chests, frequently seems to contain 1 dungeon item, so only 1 actual item you're looking for. Very much want to skip, and the reason why people don't want to go Swamp in full clear.
Hitaka made his way up to the hobo under the bridge and got a shield for his efforts. After beating so much of this game already, I don't think that'll give him any effectiveness, as JCopes finds a different copy of that shield.
Amusingly enough, yes.
Down in Swamp. And Hitaka is not interested in Swamp Palace in the slightest, going up to check the Zora area now before diving into that dungeon.
That's true. The flippers came so late, we haven't seen Zora quite yet. So,
well, there's a 4th bottle. I do like from JCopes the idea of going straight to the back half of Swamp and not doing the left side, because he knows he's exactly 1 item from go mode. He knows that the only thing he possibly needs is Ether. And under that thinking, you go straight to the boss, you check all the chests along the way, and if Ether shows up there, now you never have to check left side.
That's right. And so I wonder, if Ether doesn't show up here on Argus, does JCopes say, no, it's probably an Ice, or step back into Swamp?
Most runners, I'd say they step back into Swamp. But JCopes has been, making those plays that leave things behind just in an effort to gain a bit more time, I think. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him leave Swamp here.
And JCopes doesn't know, but we know that going to Ice is a bust, and it looks like JCopes is going back to check that left side of Swamp.
All right.
Hopefully for JCopes is where what we're looking for is, and I think it has to be at this point.
Not
We
necessarily.
missed something. Where else can this ether be?
Well, of course, just before the runners went into Misery Mire, Hitaka mirrored and picked up the book from the Desert Ledge. So that puts the Ether Tablet, the Bombos Tablet into play. We haven't even seen the Smith check, the Purple Chest check. There's Spike Cave still out there, and there's all 2 items in Desert Palace out there. So obviously the runners checking Swamp and Ice first makes sense because you want those crystals anyways, but if Ether doesn't show up for JCopes here, then this seed just gets nasty with so many locations Ether could show up in and no indication about which one's most likely.
That's correct. And that is the thing about those medallions, is that there is nothing to point at where they could possibly be other than literally every location in logic.
Chat pointing out also, of course, Catfish not checked. If you're Hitaka, then the Pyramid and the Fat Fairy's Cave not checked. These are just so many locations that are going to make the runners sweat and make them wonder, where did the other guy go? Is he climbing Ganon's tower already? And that is not a fun mental state to be in at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. That is, when you are hunting around for that one item, the worst feeling is, what if my opponent found it already? Oh no, I'm behind. JCopes finding the big key over on left side, which is never fun. And the compass, which means he has to run back to the big chest. We'll see if Hitaka goes ahead and clears left side first. It is a little bit faster to do left side first rather than coming back in. But as mentioned earlier, a lot of runners like to skip that left side, just gambling that nothing is over there.
There it is.
Oh, that was it. And so if Hitaka does left side first here, that will make up a little bit of time here.
So I believe with that Ether Medallion for JCopes, at about 1 hour and 16 and some minutes, he has entered Go mode and has 2 more crystals to do, both Ice Palace and Turtle Rock still to complete. But JCopes gets that great advantage. He gets to do Ice Palace in Go mode.
We are going to see an incredibly different Ice Palace out of JCopes than we saw out of Hitaka, because JCopes knows that no matter what is in those chests, even if it's Butter Sword or Silvers, we don't need to worry about those items to finish the game, so we can skip them.
Can we ever? And Hitaka, of course, has headed back to the back half of Swamp Palace, gets that second shield, gets a heart piece, but is going to have to come back into this dungeon later to get that big key, and that's going to put these runners so close to each other.
That's right. Since Hitaka has done Ice Palace already, as soon as Hitaka goes in, finds that Ether Medallion, will immediately mirror up and head up to Turtle Rock himself, and we will have a very close race on our hands, I think.
Ooh, JCopes missing some of the bomb usage there in the first bombable floor room of Ice Palace. But there, flips the switch again with a bomb, drops down through here, and gets to do this weird Stelphos room that looks like it shouldn't work, but hey, game's weird, man. This works out.
That's right. That was one of those rooms that, you know, personally, I'm someone who played this game a lot as a kid and was much worse at it then. It's one of those rooms you got to as a kid and you're like, man, what is this place? JCopes making a very nice Ice Palace bomb jump there.
And Hitaka, fortunately, going back into Swamp Palace. And JCopes going to drink that red potion he picked up earlier right at the start of the run, because he was getting pretty low on hearts here. You know, there's a 2 heart difference and 1 tier of mail difference for these runners. This could play a bit into their play through Ganon's Tower. You know, if Hitaka's comfortable just tanking a few extra hits and being a bit more aggressive with his play, could get him up the gauntlet a bit faster.
And that is absolutely correct. The gauntlet can be really tricky because you know what you're going to face in every room, but it pans out a little bit differently every time. And sometimes having that extra mail or extra health can really help to make the difference. So we'll see what happens once we get up there.
But of course, Hitaka has to play through this silly little game in Swamp Palace where he picks up a key from under a rock, swaps the chest, or swaps the thing, floods the corridor, loops around, and JCopes is already in Cold Stare and spamming that fire rod.
That's right. You can see just how different that Go Mode Ice Palace is with the fact that JCopes is already in the Cold Stare fight. Cleans it up very nicely.
Puffs got away, but it didn't matter very much. There's a small key, but more importantly, a 6th crystal for JCopes. So still a long ways to run in this race because both runners will have to do Turtle Rock. This is far from over.
Without a doubt, JCopes is going to get into Turtle Rock a little bit earlier, but Hitaka is not going to be far behind once picking up this Ether Medallion, and it's going to be neck and neck for a lot of the remainder of this race based on everything we've seen so far.
And we see JCopes doing a bit of a detour, maybe not so confident, or just wants to err completely on the safe side. He swaps over, picks up a blue potion, and then lets go of his B so he can pick up another blue potion.
I think that's a really good call on JCopes' part. JCopes is at an hour and 21 in go mode, about to do his last crystal dungeon. Ideally, is just on a straight path to Ganon at this point. Taking the 20-25 seconds to pick up a couple safeties when you're in green mail and 10 hearts, or blue mail and 10 hearts, feels pretty good.
And here's the thing. JCopes is ahead by maybe a minute at this point. But JCopes is probably feeling a bit more confident here because he knows he went straight to Swamp after picking up the mitts. After finding out Turtle Rock was locked. Whereas Hitaka might be feeling a bit worried, knowing that, hey, I had to full clear out Ice Palace, JCopes may have won a bunch of time on me there. So that could play into any number of risks they decide to take here too, including left side versus right side in GT.
Absolutely.
But on that same note, JCopes may be feeling a bit safer. Time-wise, wants to take those 30 seconds, buy potions, and be sure that he's not going to lose more time from an unfortunate death in T-Rock or the tower.
Absolutely. Depending on if you take a death in T-Rock, depending on where, or T-Rock, in T-Rock or the tower, yeah. Depending on where that is, that can lose you far more time than that quick detour to the potion shop did.
Chad, of course, also pointing out that because JCopes did that Pyramid Fairy, he has half magic right now, and Hitaka's running around without that. Now, if you're used to running NMG, the no major glitches, non-randomized version of this game, Hitaka is still over-geared for this dungeon with his red mail. And he would be confident doing this without the half magic, but again, when you can spam that fire rod over and over and over, you play a bit more quickly.
Absolutely. It's a time save to skip some of those items in NMG, but if you pick them up incidentally in Randomizer like this, it's also a time save having them. So it really kind of depends on the situation you find yourself in.
Ooh, JCopes getting bodied by those rollers. Ideally, you want to use the hook shot to give yourself iframes as that chain extends so that you don't take any hits aside from maybe one on the way out. But JCopes just takes a beating. He's down to 2.5 hearts after that room.
Yeah, that is not the way you want to get through. He got one of those good iframe moments, but the rest of them didn't quite pan out, I think, like they did in his head.
Ooh, Hitaka grabbing that torch successfully. A very nice way of saving a couple seconds in that room. Of course, that's the preferred speedrunner way to do it. Drop yourself in the hole by design so that you don't have to waste time running around on platforms.
Oh, and Jacob are getting a little denied there by the chain chomps here. Didn't get his Samaria where he wanted. Oh!
That's a nasty hit. Chain chomps hit way too hard, even when you're using some sort of armor. And just like that, the lead is switched from Hitaka, or to Hitaka, from JCopes. But that one chain chomp gets in the way of his Samaria as well.
That's
and
right,
these runners are 2 rooms apart.
Oh,
very
Jacob's,
nice kickball play.
I very much like that play. That is one of my favorite Samaria tricks, to kick that block over there with the boots. That's always a pleasure to see.
And especially when you can get it right where JCopes did, where it hits one crystal, and then you can step onto the blocks just before the other crystal gets hit. You can use those iframes and push the block to avoid the chain chomps. Nice swag play. As Hitaka turns into a Pokeball, and that Pokey gets away from him.
Fortunately, didn't let it get too far before he picked up the key, but he is going to check here, looking for that big key still.
And JCopes pulls out his bug net there, says, hang on, I would like to put a fairy in a bottle. I want to avoid that. Instead, he becomes a mushroom and skips that lava chest.
Oh no!
Oh no! JCopes, that's the big key.
No, Jacobs! Oh no! And this is it's very tempting to skip that chest, because a lot of times you'll open that up and it's another key behind that, but that's a very important key behind that this time.
In Go mode, Turtle Rock, that is the only chest you can potentially skip, but it's only skippable if you don't have the big key, or if you already have the big key. And JCopes taking the outside route, of course, because he wants to check that big chest and make sure if it's a small key, he gets it. But he's about to find out, and this is going to hurt him.
He doesn't have it. He didn't realize he didn't have it. For JCopes, I hope he goes back and checks that right away, and it looks like he is.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, he has to know where the big key is. And it's a brain fart that many runners, myself included, have made in the past, where you just go, yeah, I can steal the key, it'll all work out fine.
Of course.
It hurts to see it happen right here.
Especially with how close these two are right now. It's a change right now, but everything could still change again. And there is the silver arrows.
Well, that's a pleasant find. JCopes making great work of that mirror there to warp himself back to the entrance he came through, not missing as much time as he could have without the mirror.
That's right. That is about the most ideal way that skip could have worked out for JCopes.
And he is going to get the silvers here and head down into that dark room. So still, just a couple of rooms separating these runners. Hitaka maybe gained a bit of lead there, but this is not over.
And far from it.
Especially, in Ganon's Tower, if one goes right and one goes left, that's going to make a huge difference.
Hitaka getting that key in the second chest at Laser Bridge is going to say goodbye and head straight to Trinex.
I mean, he could keep checking chests, and from his perspective, he might find the Butter Sword or the Half Magic. But I think at this point, the race has gone on for this long. Some things were nicely in play early on, and you might be starting to get worried about how close you are to your opponent.
Absolutely. It has been a fairly friendly seed in general, so you don't necessarily, when you are this close to the end, want to add in any little things that could take additional time.
Oh, Hitaka missing that 5th hit on the Firehead means two things. One, unfortunately, ice gets put out on the floor, and also that Firehead keeps exploding, and Hitaka didn't have time to switch to the Fire Rod. He's out of magic, but he just got that 5th hit in.
And that was very close on magic. I don't know what Hitaka's potion situation is right now. Did Hitaka stock up before coming up Death Mountain?
I know. I think he might have a green potion still.
Okay.
And he definitely has some fairies. So it's not like that was the end of the world. It's just unfortunate time loss if it happens, especially when, these runners are fighting Trinex side by side. That's 7 crystals for Hitaka. And Nakanashi, what happens when someone gets 7 crystals?
Well, that means that we're about to go to Ganon's Tower.
And is there a little game we like to play here?
There certainly is. So within Ganon's Tower, there are 22 chests that could potentially house the big key. And we like to play a little game here on Speed Gaming where we guess which chest is going to contain that big key. So get your numbers in chat right now. 1 to 22. Where is the big key going to be today? What do you think it's going to be, Leon?
Well, someone guessed 14 before I did, so I had to go with 8, my backup number, which I'm not a huge fan of, but hey, I'll take what I can get. And of course, if you have subscribed to any of the Speed Gaming channels or cheered at least 250 bits, and you're correct, you get put on that special leaderboard, which means you have your name written on the internet. That's always fun. Ooh, a small key on the right side for Hitaka in chest 2. He's going to mirror out and not do right side.
I think that's a pretty common play from what I've seen people do.
Oh,
check those first 2 on the right and then check a full left.
It certainly is, but it does open up that possibility. If JCopes4Life goes right with that small key, then that could decide the race right there.
It really could. This is the most. If JCopes decides to keep going to the right here, this could be the make or break decision for this race.
Looks like he's going to head to the left as well. So Hitaka's going to keep a bit of a lead. Chest 5 having another small key. The Stalfos room often full of small keys. A mirror shield in chest 6, and a very late mushroom in chest 7.
It is always fun to see these fetch quest items or just other items that don't logically do anything, like perhaps the bug net hanging out in Ganon's Tower at the very end of the seed.
Well, looks like my guess of chest number 8 did not pan out today.
That is too bad. My guess would have been probably Bob's chest. But we'll see
that good old number 14.
That's right, your original guess.
All right, so Hitaka into the fire bar or the fire snake room now, doing that nice little bonk to hop over. Ooh, accidental menu to the bombs here. Those things don't normally matter a lot, but you do start counting them at this point and wondering, do accidental menus end up bringing these runners closer together?
That's true. And when we are watching here, just a few rooms between them, those minor fractions of second decisions that happen could be the difference in the end.
Randomizer room, giving a ton of rupees out to these runners, completely useless, as bad as the mushroom at this point in the race. And JCopes coming up on the randomizer room as well. These runners are almost high-fiving through the teleport room.
They really are. Whoops, missing the tile ever so slightly there on JCopes.
And Hitaka coming up on Bob's chest. Also a small key there. So it's time for Ice Armos. Good thing we picked up those silvers earlier. That was chest 14. And it'll be 15, 16, 17 for Hitaka behind here.
That's right, this room being the vanilla big key location. Finding the bloomerang, 10 arrows, and the big key itself. So if you guessed 17, you were correct today.
You get your name on the internet. And so JCopes gonna do that fight as well with silver arrows, and Hitaka heading up that gauntlet. So thanks, or rather congratulations to Centroid41, who managed to get on that leaderboard tonight. Oh, Hitaka having a bit of trouble in that second Mimic's room. Silver's making that significantly easier because you only need that one hit.
That's right, and it can be a tricky room. Even with that mirror shield to deflect the shots that the mimics fire at you, it can be a very sticky room to get through.
You can see JCopes standing still and swinging a sword as he tries to move. That means he doesn't move, but the mimics pretend like he's moving and navigate through the room towards him. And then just using the sword to stay facing one way while he manipulates the mimics. Gaining maybe a bit of time in that room, but still a few rooms behind here.
Yep, ever so slight gains is what this is all about at this point, too. That's a very nice trick to know if anybody is unaware of it, that JCopes did there on those mimics. Hitaka is still in the gauntlet first, cleaning up this room very quickly, moving on to the next one. Also no problems there.
Those red enemies going down very quickly as well. Misses that arrow shot on the Stalfos, but swoops down to the bottom right and gets those hits. Not the best way to do that room, but certainly works as JCopes is spamming that fire rod.
Yeah,
missing a few shots, but hey, when you have half magic, go, go, go. Oh my gosh, that was an incredible snipe.
Yeah, that was amazing. This is really where that half magic is paying off for JCopes, because JCopes can just really liberally use that fire rod through these rooms to clear out these enemies, which is a very nice way to take them out.
Oh, but he's got
a little careful with that health.
Yeah, there's a blue potion though. That'll refill his health and his magic, so he can keep using that fire rod.
Yeah, definitely a very nice decision to pick up those blue potions before coming up here for JCopes, because he's good to go for the next bit. Using the silver arrows to handily clean up Limulus too.
So I saw someone in chat counting things earlier. They were about 30 seconds apart when they entered Cannon's Tower. I feel like that gap has closed slightly here, but it may not be enough for JCopes. Hitaka breezing through that first torch room, and having enough magic can probably go straight up the stairs here into torches too.
Absolutely. That half magic that JCopes picked up isn't paying off in this exact moment because Hitaka was able to still do it even without half. But still very, very close between these two.
Hitaka's going to have to hit that switch to get the magic upgrade here. Both runners fortunately have all the small keys they need for this dungeon, and it's time for Muldorm 2. Usually a spin and another slash with the Tempered Sword, or 2 spins, and Hitaka has a very clean fight. I see chat saying things like 20 seconds, 18 seconds separating these two runners. Hitaka rushing on straight to the Aga 2 fight.
Absolutely. And like Chat's saying, this is incredibly close. 20 seconds, 18 seconds. This is the kind of finish you dream of when you watch one of these races. And JCopes cleaning up Moldorm 2 in just a moment.
Ooh, Moldorm not stepping out there. There he steps out so JCopes can get the dash off. That's, in this context, a pretty substantial time sink. As Hitaka gets 2 hits on that first phase of Aga 2.
Ooh, very nice in these first 2 for Aga 2.
And I think that was 4 cycles to take down Aghanim 2 as JCopes is just entering that room. So we see them in the same room for the first time in a long while, but Hitaka is going to have the lead headed to Ganon. JCopes getting the double. Ooh, and nothing in phase 2. But a triple in phase 3.
There. Just needs one more, and he's on the way to Ganon as well. And
Ganon today with some Pink Floyd lyrics for us, and Hitaka one cycling, not quite one cycling that first phase, but gets it in 2 cycles. So 12 hits in the first 2 phases of Ganon each. Hitaka doesn't get the 1 cycle on phase 2, but he's very close, and if he's been counting hits, he'll know exactly how many more he needs. With the way he backs off there, I think he's got his 12, and we're into phase 3.
That's getting that ever so slightly too late to delay this fire back coming out. Not going to cause a problem, though. As JCopes gets into fight himself, using those cape strats with the half magic to just lay damage into Ganon.
Yeah, that's an effective tactic, and again, with that half magic, you don't have to be worried. But, you know, it may not be enough here. Phase 3 is essentially a fixed time. Ganon's going to warp the same number of times for both runners. Hitaka gets the double off right there, and the torch glitch with the fire rod.
That might be all he needs to... Oh, getting hit with the fire bat there. But
I don't think it's going to matter at this point.
And that is going to do it for Hitaka.
So he is going to take down Ganon, and as soon as he walks through that door, we'll get an official time for him. JCopes, meanwhile, breezed through phase 2, doing those warps onto phase 3. Hitaka finishing with an official time of 1 hour, 42 minutes, and 13 seconds. JCopes taking the hit to Ganon. Does he have a fairy with him? He does not.
No.
And I believe we are joined by Hitaka in here. Congratulations on that run, and GG. Hello, Hitaka?
I was muted. So it sounds like it's pretty close.
Yeah, you know, simultaneous Ganon fights. Pretty close as things go. What was your sense as you were running through the last couple dungeons? Did you think you had a lead, or did you think you might even be behind or neck and neck?
I didn't think I was behind. I thought I did pretty well to seed. I was just mainly annoyed that Ether was the only thing stopping me from go-moding Ice and Swamp.
Yeah, it certainly was.
Because I found Flippers, I thought, in Hookshot Cave, I thought, oh good, that might be go mode if I can get into Turtle Rock. And then I found Bombos right after that. I thought, alright, it's a 2/3 chance I can go do Turtle Rock right now. And of course it was the one I didn't have.
Yeah, you were ahead by a bit at that point. And then you made the play to Ice Palace, of course. And JCopes, when he got to that decision, went straight to Swamp. So he gained a fair amount of time there. And you were about 22 seconds apart entering Turtle Rock.
Oh, wow. And I skipped left side in Swamp, and because I was hoping I wouldn't have to do it. and there was only one item left over there, and I really thought about just leaving, because left side for 2 items is slow, but left side for only 1 item is really slow, and there was a lot of overworld stuff I still hadn't checked yet.
Yeah.
So I thought, no, if that's ether, I will hate myself forever. So I just went and did it, and it was, of course, ether.
Well, I have good news. You don't have to hate yourself forever.
That's why you don't skip left side, kids.
But I have good news for JCopes. He has finished this race as well with a time of 1 hour, 44 minutes, 33 seconds. So about 2 minutes, 20 seconds separating the two of you. So good work from both of you.
Yeah, it was a fantastic race out of both of you tonight.
And we'll see if JCopes wants to hop in for an interview as well. But yeah, fantastic run, Hitaka. And, especially that climb of the gauntlet. It seemed to get closer and then further apart. You two were kind of oscillating in your time discrepancy, and you held to that lead.
Thank you. I'm definitely going to have to watch this one.
It was a very exciting race to watch there, especially in the end when you were both so close to one another.
And it does look like JCopes is going to join us briefly. There he is. GG on that race.
Oh, thank you.
GG.
That was a very, very close race.
Yeah, thanks to, both of you for putting on that show. That was a heck of a thing to watch.
I just want to shout out Goldby.
Gold B certainly was a nice surprise in that run, and I think it made the difference for you in that fight.
Did you use Beast Rats on Mothula?
Yeah, I came really close to dying, so I let go of the bee, and it saved the fight.
Oh, wow.
The clutch B was awesome out of you. It was very concerning until you pulled out that bottle, let the bee go, did its work, and we were all cheering for you.
Yeah, it was that was an interesting fight. I didn't want to regret not picking up Blue Mail. Is what it came down to.
Yeah, we saw you take a few avoidances of safeties. The Blue Mail skip the heart container on top of Spectacle Rock. I guess the question is, what motivated you to do those? Those seem like, at least for me, not very big time sinks.
I like the added layer of a challenge sometimes. It definitely would have helped out. Like the Blue Mail would have saved me from not dying in Thieves Town, but I feel like I could get better without Blue Mail if I don't have Blue Mail.
I mean, that's certainly a fair assessment. When you aren't relying on it, you definitely worry more about those single hits. But yeah, this was I was pleased to see how front-loaded everything was. You know, that 8-minute Dark World access that you both had. This is one of the first times I haven't seen an early play to the South Shore. Was there? I guess you both ended up delaying your flutes a fair amount. Did that cause you any concern?
I didn't think so. I was more concerned about finding the mirror, not the flute, because the mirror would have been perfect to route if I found that in Hype Cave. But I wasn't concerned about finding the flute late.
Me neither, because I was more concerned about finding mitts. Because the main thing the flute opens is the Mire area, but without mitts you can't go there anyway, so mitts opens up more than just that.
Yeah, that is a very good point.
Yeah, and I believe those mitts came from the King's Tomb.
Yes.
With Boots in Palace of Darkness on the right side.
Yeah, I think it was in the behind the Was it the one behind the bombable wall, or was
Yeah,
it
it was behind the bomb wall.
Okay. Yeah, Palace of Darkness really had quite a bit.
Hookshot too.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like even if Pod's a pendant, it's pretty much always going to have something.
Yeah, and well, with that early bow, I wasn't too surprised to see you guys hit there
Yeah.
fairly early. You know, obviously, Thievestown and Skullwoods first, but
Was our routing fairly similar, or did we diverge in some places?
so at the start there was a massive split, just in terms of you took Dark World at different spots, you did South Shore at different times, and I believe it was JCopes stepped into Tower of Hera, saw arrows on the floor, and then skipped the rest of the dungeon.
Yep, that was me.
Which, you know, had us nervous, but ended up not causing any problems for you. As the run went on, you kind of fell into the same rhythm, with Hitaka doing things slightly before as you traced a similar path. But really what had us worried was you each had left a bunch of different overworld things open. And if Ether hadn't been in that swamp chest, then it would have been up in the air as to, you know, who was going to check overworld stuff first and who was going to break new ground and find that Ether. And that was a bit frightening. But you know, I'm sure you guys had that worry too when you were going through swamp.
I was tempted not to go back in for the left side. I'm so glad I did, though.
Me too. Because there's only one item left on left side, so I thought I could be checking a whole bunch more overworld stuff, or this one chest.
Yeah, we were both a little worried when you finished swamp. It's like, well, are they going to go back in, or are they not going to go back in? And it's very fortunate for the both of you that you both decided to go back in rather than check all that multitude of overworld locations that weren't checked. We didn't check, like, you know, the blacksmith, purple chest, anything overworld aside from Death Mountain that was opened by Mitz. You know, there were a lot of locations that were kind of left open, and you just didn't need to check them. It was the right call that you both made.
I don't even think I wound up checking Catfish this seed.
I didn't either. I did Zora area, but I didn't do Catfish. I didn't do Spike Cave, I didn't do Smiths and Purple Chest. I never got around to doing Magic Bat either, even though we got Powder fairly early.
I think I wrote it. I can't remember exactly when I wrote it, the bat in. I think it was, I want to say when I grabbed Kane, but that doesn't sound right. I think I did it sooner than that. I think you just had like a heart piece or something.
So, Hitaka, with that win, you're up to a 3-0 record in the tournament. How do you feel going into next week against, you know, someone else with an undefeated record in this field of competitors?
Well, the field is definitely narrowing at this point, so there's definitely going to be a lot of good people out there that I'm probably going to wind up against one of them. So I'm just going to, you know, do my best.
And JCopes, 2-1 is, of course, a long ways from being out of this tournament. Any particular areas you're focusing on with your practice, or strategies you're trying out to see, you know, what opportunities there are?
Well, my main goal is throughout the tournament is just to improve, but the whereabouts of where I'd like to improve, I still haven't I haven't narrowed it down to any specific field. So I don't really have a good answer to that, but as long as I'm working towards improvement is my goal.
Hey, an answer's an answer. All right, I think we will wrap things up there. if you want more Link to the Past Randomizer, you're actually out of luck tonight. This was the last match on the docket, aside from one on Speed Gaming 5 that's been going on for about an hour right now. But, of course, matches on all the Speed Gaming channels, all the ALTTP Randomizer channels throughout tomorrow and the next several months are going to be full of Randomizer, more than you can watch.
That's true. If you haven't gotten your fill of Randomizer yet, don't worry, you will have plenty of opportunities.
I want to give a big thanks to What's Up, who was the tracker for this race, who kept all those icons updated at the bottom, and including not marking off the cane of Berna, because somehow neither of you runners came across that blue cane in this race. And see What's Up clearing the tracker there since the race is over. Thanks to both of you runners, Hitaka and JCopes4Life, for this race. This was a super fun one to watch, so give these guys a follow if you haven't done so already. And I want to thank my co-commentator here, Nakanashi, for joining me, and I'll give him the final word. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah, and it was a pleasure to watch this race, and thank you, Philion, for commentating as well. And thank you, everyone, for watching, and our runners as well. And we hope to see you on more races tomorrow.